Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. I'm Sophia, and here with me is Ethan. Today, we're diving into one of the most effective ways to learn new vocabulary, learning it in context. We'll explain why learning words in context is so much better than just memorizing them, and how you can make it part of your language routine.
Hi, everyone. Yes, learning words in context really makes a difference. Imagine trying to remember a single word on its own. It's like having a random puzzle piece without the full picture. But when you learn that word in context, in sentences or situations, it sticks because you see how it fits in.
Exactly, and it's way more practical. Think about it. When you learn a word in a real-life situation, like reading it in a story or hearing it in a conversation, you get so much more. You understand not only the word itself, but how it's used, who might use it, and even the emotion or tone behind it. Let's start by breaking down what learning in context actually means. Instead of just looking up a word and trying to remember its definition, you're seeing it in action, in a sentence, a conversation, a story. For example, instead of memorizing the word delicious, you might read a sentence like, "The pizza was so delicious I couldn't stop eating." Now, you get a feeling for the word because you see how it's used in a situation.
And that's the magic. Seeing it used with other words, like pizza and couldn't stop eating, gives you clues that delicious is about food, and it's something really good. Your brain creates a little story around that word, which makes it easier to remember.
Yes, and it works the same when you're listening. Say you hear someone in a show say, "This music is so relaxing after a long day." Now you know that relaxing is a positive feeling, and it's probably something calming. You're building associations without having to look up every word.
That's true, and it also helps you learn which words go together. This is what we call collocations. So, instead of just learning the word strong, you might also learn that people often say strong coffee or strong opinion. It sounds more natural, and you're less likely to make mistakes if you're using words in the way native speakers do.
All right, so now let's talk about some easy ways to start learning words in context. One of my favorite ways is reading short stories or articles. Even if you don't understand every word, you'll pick up on new vocabulary from the way it's used in sentences.
That's a great one, Sophia. And for anyone who loves reading but finds books too challenging, you can try graded readers. These are books written for language learners with simpler vocabulary. They're amazing because they use words in ways that make sense, so you're constantly learning in context.
Yes! Another fun way is watching movies or TV shows. It's entertaining, and you're learning how words are actually spoken in different situations. Plus, you get to see facial expressions and body language that match the words, which makes it easier to understand.
And if you're really focusing, try writing down phrases or sentences that catch your attention. Let's say you hear, "I'm exhausted after that workout." You could write down exhausted after that workout instead of just exhausted. That way, you remember that exhausted means very tired, and that it's often used after something tiring, like a workout.
Another useful technique is keeping a vocabulary journal. Instead of just writing down words and their meanings, write them in sentences or short phrases. Add any details you remember about where you heard the word or saw it. It gives you a mini context to go back to.
That's a solid method. And you can even make it fun by creating little stories with your new words. For instance, if you learned delicious and exhausted, you might write, "After a long hike, I was exhausted and ate a delicious meal." It might sound simple, but combining words and stories like this makes your memory stronger.
Definitely. And don't forget about apps that teach vocabulary and context, like reading apps, vocabulary games, and listening apps that use real-life sentences. They're great because they show you words in different situations, and they're often interactive. Another great point, Ethan, is to actually use the words you learn. Once you hear or read a word, try using it in your daily life. Maybe you say to a friend, "I'm exhausted after work today," or tell them about a delicious meal you had. The more you use the word, the easier it becomes to remember.
Yes, repeating it in your own life really solidifies it. And don't worry about being perfect. When you use new words, even if you make small mistakes, you're practicing, and that's what really matters.
Absolutely. And mistakes are actually a good thing. Every time you try a word, even if it feels a little awkward at first, your brain is learning from that experience. It's almost like training a muscle. Each time you practice, you're getting stronger and closer to using that word naturally.
And one cool trick I found is to look for opportunities in daily life to use new words. For instance, if you learn the word motivated, maybe talk to a friend or even write a short note in your journal about a time you felt motivated. Or, if you're learning the word challenging, think about something in your day that was challenging. This way, you're not just memorizing the word, you're connecting it to real feelings and situations.
I love that approach. Plus, connecting words to emotions or personal stories is like putting extra glue in your memory. Say you recently learned curious. Instead of just repeating it, you could think about a time you felt curious, like watching a mystery show or learning about a new place. Those personal connections make words way more memorable.
Right, and one last thing, don't rush it. Vocabulary grows bit by bit. You don't need to learn 100 words a day. Even just 1 or 2 new words used well can make a big difference. Think of it like building a puzzle. Each word adds to the big picture over time, and it feels amazing when you start seeing it come together.
So, to sum it up, learning vocabulary and context is like learning it with extra information. You get the meaning, the feeling, and sometimes even the situation where it's used. And it's so much easier than just memorizing lists.
Right. Start small. Find what works for you, whether it's reading, watching, or writing, and make it a habit. Over time, you'll have not only a bigger vocabulary, but also the confidence to use it naturally.
Exactly. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. Keep finding those words in context and have fun learning.
Yes, and remember, language is everywhere. Just keep your ears open and stay curious. Happy learning, everyone.